Hey, it's Andrew LaFleur, the lazy writer, and here's the third installment of our series, Read to Succeed, where we are going chronologically through this book, the 2018 The Best American Short Stories. We read Cougar, then we read A Family, and now we're on The Art of Losing by Yoon Choi. Okay, she's I think she's a female, Korean author or a Korean American author to be more specifically. And this video is going to be a little bit different than the other ones. The other ones I went into much more detail. I think I looked in the passage more for quotes. I had a long day, and this is a very long story, so I got through it. I took some notes, and I'm here to talk to you now, but I'm not going to go into quite as much detail. There's really one thing I want to point out. There's a lot of things that I think I can take from her work, and I'd like to give it more time and thought. And I might do a part two to this video. We'll see. But there's one thing for sure I want to take from her writing, and then there's a lot of stuff that I really enjoyed as a reader. So let's just get right into it. The story itself is a story about a man who has Alzheimer's, the kind of the patriarch of a family of Korean Americans. And the four characters that are really involved are, I believe, his daughter, his grandson, and his deceased wife. It's called The Art of Losing, and there's so many ways you could take it. So as a reader, I'm going to get right into what I enjoy as a reader. Is the theme mixed with the title. So The Art of Losing. So he's losing his memories. He has Alzheimer's, right? But not only that, a lot of characters are all losing something. He not only or there's I think there's at least four ways in which there's the idea of something losing. So the art of losing, right? And it kind of shows that there is no art to losing. You're gonna lose everything at one point, and it just is gonna happen, and you're gonna have to deal with it. And that's kind of what this is about, I feel. And as much as it's a Korean American short story, more than anything, it's just a short story. I think I was kind of expecting this to be more centered around her Korean life, but it really wasn't. But he's losing his memory. He lost his wife, and his daughter is losing her physical capabilities. She's been a caregiver her whole life, and she's losing that. And so those are the three really obvious ways in which we see losing. Over time things just disappearing. But there's one more I'd like to mention is that, and I said this isn't really all about a Korean aspect to it, but that's still part of it. The Korean family is very Americanized at this point. So the Korean family losing their kind of Korean heritage, and I personally think the death of the grandmother or the main character's wife and the kind of memory loss of the patriarch of the whole family, the main character, symbolizes kind of the loss of that as well. So it's the art of losing your culture, losing your memory, losing your wife, losing your physical abilities, and the mother who's losing her physical abilities is also losing what she cared about most in life, being a caregiver. So the theme mixed with the fact that the title is so, I kind of usually don't like titles that are almost uncanny. What's your story about? What's your story about? About a tree. Okay, let's call it Tree, right? I mean, maybe for children's novels and young adult stuff that really works, but normally when you get to more adult and more literature, I prefer to kind of stay away from it. However, I think it works really, really well for this particular story. Now, as a reader, I said I wasn't going to look through this and find a quote, but I can't help myself. And the thing is, what I'm about to say that I learned as a reader, which I mean, I already knew it, but this person really did it in a unique way. What I was going to do was, what I wanted to point out is that the idea of varying sentence lengths, often to keep the reader interested, but what they do, I already knew that, but what this person did is kind of a free and direct discourse, which if you don't know what free and direct discourse is, I will probably make a video on that later. But just to do it simply, it's when the character kind of being centered around at the moment, usually the main character, and the narrator kind of meld. But kind of through free indirect discourse, the narrative and the sentences are dictated somewhat in a way that would make sense with someone losing their memory. I mean, if you go, they become really short and really to the point. Just even the very first paragraph. Watch the boy, she said, period. Or had she? Question mark. Some things he knew for sure, period. His name was Han Mo-se, period. His wife was Han Young-ja, period. They had been married 40 years, possibly 50, period. The wife would know, period. They had 2 children, Timothy and Christina, period. You see what I'm saying? These really short things that would make sense for someone thinking as in an Alzheimer kind of mode. And yeah, so I think that's pretty good. That I really enjoyed that about this. That at times where she really wanted you to be in this gentleman's head, the sentence lengths got shorter and they got very kind of mission based, right? Kind of like desperate for information. Watch the boy, or had she? Some things knew for sure. His name was Han Mo-se. His wife was Han Young-ja. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing things correctly. I don't really pronounce Korean very well. If you give me Japanese, I got you, but not Korean. So I really enjoyed that. And I think there's another early in this you can find a really good example of it. Yeah. To remember to eat. To remember he had eaten. To turn things off after he had turned them on. To zip his fly. To occupy the present moment. Suddenly, he hated her. Right? So you see that's the way the main character thinks, so that's the way the narrative is structured at the level of the sentence. I think that's pretty cool, and it really inspires me to think about the way I structure my sentence to add to the tone and mood of your piece. Because I normally think of, I normally vary my sentence lengths as often as I can just to keep things from growing stale. But what this person did is they kept the sentence lengths one way to force the reader to read the way the main character thinks. And I think that's pretty powerful and such an amazing thing that this writer did, whose name is Yoon Choi, right? Yoon Choi, yeah. So I really enjoyed the story. I thought it was pretty gripping. And that's about it for The Art of Losing. Tomorrow we will be reading Los Angeles by Emma Cline. I looked at this one earlier, and I think this one is a bit shorter. So that'll be exciting. Something a little bit shorter, something a little bit more easy to sink our teeth into. But I do want to say one more thing before I head out. These videos are going to be my more casual videos, right? It's kind of more of a vlogging style. I'm just going to talk. I don't really care how long it goes. Stick out around for as long as you want. I'm happy. But I do want to say one more thing. If you are watching this video and you started reading with me that's awesome. You can start at any time, obviously. This is a crystallized experiment, right? I'm doing this every day. But these videos will be up in a playlist. You could do this one story a week, one story a month. I challenge you to do it every day. But if you haven't bought this and you haven't started reading along with me, I really do challenge you to. I think there's such a value in reading, and I think that if you can read every day, or even if you can't read every day, you bring it to once a week, you can look back on your day or week and say, I did something. Most people recognize that they need to read. Every single time I ask my students, I say, who here thinks who here has thought, thinks on a regular basis, oh, I should read a book? Every one of them raises their hands. And then I say, who actually has done that this week? Usually only 1 or 2 do. So everyone knows what they want to do, but it's really hard to bring ourselves to do it. So just do your best to read every day, and if not, every week. I ask you to do that, not for me, but for you. I think there's such value in it, and such beauty you can add into your life, and such enrichment you could give your mind. So that's all I have to say. I'm Andrew LaFleur, the lazy writer, and if I can read every day, so can you. Thank you.